And welcome back. Well, have you ever struggled to get past a difficult event that happened in your life? Maybe you know what it was and what it means to wallow in something bad, something painful, rather than move on. So today we've got simple steps to regain your power.
I love this. Our next guest confesses that she spent more than 20 years wallowing about something that happened to her, and she wants to make sure that you don't make the same mistake. Kat Dahls is a speaker. She's a life coach and author. She wrote this book, Get Your Goddess On, Own Your Power, Love Your Life. Tiff read it cover to cover.
I did read it
after
cover to
Kat
cover.
was last here. I bet you feel good about that.
I do, and she said that to me. I was like very excited, and I love that you loved it too.
It was fantastic. I think it was an easy read. It was so motivational, exciting, and there were some real good nuggets in there that I liked.
Good for
Fantastic.
you. All right,
Thank
I
you.
want to know, first of all, before we start, if you'll share, because I think a lot of people get stuck in things that happen in life.
Yeah.
Some things that we maybe choose and they don't go so well. Some things that others choose for us, and stuff happens to us, so we feel down about it. We're negative toward other people. What were you wallowing in?
I wallowed in a number of things all at once. I had had some very bad experiences when I was younger. My father was quite verbally abusive, so I thought that was the norm, and so I kept attracting those kind of people in my life. So in every way, I had that verbal abuse that I kept thinking that I was not enough. And so when that gets ingrained in you, it becomes your mantra, it becomes who you are. Yeah, it's your story. That's who you are. And then I had some bad experiences in college where I was attacked, and that was not fun. And I played the victim really, really well for over 20 years. And then when I realized it really wasn't about me, then it started to become something different. But I wallowed in financial things and in relationship things and 2 husbands along the way. And I had so much fun the first time, I had to get divorced a second time.
But people get stuck. Divorce is a good one, I
Yes.
think, because people get stuck and they blame the other person. They're negative about
The
everything.
blame game is so dangerous. It is. And we don't realize that if we just figure out one thing that we could have done differently and forgive ourselves for that. Self-forgiveness was my biggest champion. I'll tell you, that was my best friend for a long time. And people don't realize that you say, oh, you have to forgive other people. You know, forgiving yourself is probably the number one. Start here.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because I think that's forgiveness frees you.
Yes.
You know, anybody who lives in that is not forgiving. They're not being honest with themselves.
The freedom that you get from that is amazing, and it's something you can do yourself. Nobody can do it for you. The personal empowerment is something personal. You do it yourself. You can inspire yourself. You can empower yourself, and you don't have to have somebody else do it. But this does help to have some suggestions, you know, from places like books and shows like yours, things like that, that help everybody.
Yeah.
I think you have lots of good things.
You have these 5 tips, and forgive yourself is one of them. That's a little down on the list. It's number 4, so we're jumping ahead. But I want to kind of walk you through this first one, because I think this is the one that people get stuck in, because things go wrong, and they think that they were a part of it, or maybe they were, but then they forget to continue to trust themselves.
Right.
And that's your number 1 tip, as you say, be brave and trust yourself. How can you get to the point of trusting yourself again when you've continually made decisions or choices that don't go correct or the way that you wanted them to?
Well, part of it is that you have to look within and say, what happened and how did I get here?
Take
If you don't
responsibility.
take responsibility. That's the 3 R's in the first one. It's not the reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. It's actually taking a look at being responsible for yourself. Quite often, the people who are wallowing in self-pity and not taking responsibility are just doing that, not taking responsibility.
They're just blaming.
They're blaming, and that's a blame-shame game, and it's just awful, and it's devastating too.
You also say reevaluate and respect yourself.
Reevaluating your own things of what's happening in your life is so helpful, because then you'll know where you are. If things aren't going well, reevaluate that, and then that's why I said the second step is making new choices. If it's not going well, then let's do something different.
Yeah.
I mean, like if your eyebrows are not working, like in your case, what you're talking about, I was just listening.
Make an appointment at the salon and get a guide.
I really think I'm going to be doing that really soon. So the process is that if you're making choices that are working and you love what's happening in your life, then make some more choices like that. Reevaluate and say, oh yeah, I am doing really good. And then on the other hand, if it's not going well, then you're making new choices. And that reevaluation process is part of how you can trust yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, who else is going to trust you?
I love
Seriously.
that. And you also say own your choices and be willing to make new choices.
Well, because if you don't own those choices and be responsible for those and say, yeah, I did that. you know, that haircut was really bad and I should not have done that. So if you want to make a new choice, make a new haircut, let's just use that as an example, then you can go and do that when it's grown out, of course. But also in finances and in career choices, things like that, there's always more choices. That's the most abundant thing we have. They're available 24/7, 365, all the time. And I love that you can always make new choices, because as soon as you make one, you can say, reevaluate that. Did that work? Nope, did not. Let's make a new choice. And then when you own those choices, they become part of you, and it's much more authentic that you come from that place.
I like that.
And then when you have those choices, the beautiful part is that the next step is the lessons you learn from those. Because if you don't learn the lessons, what happens? You keep doing them over and over.
History.
And repeating history, I'm telling you, is...
And you wallow.
Yeah,
right?
and that's when the wallow. I am the queen of wallow. I don't have my my crown and my banner on anymore, because I don't wallow. I immediately, when something happens, if somebody said something to me at a wedding recently, and I gave myself 5 minutes, okay? And I
like
said,
that.
okay.
Set a deadline.
And so that's what I did. I sat off to the side and said, okay, I'm giving myself 5 minutes. I timed myself and said, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. And then I said, you know what? But that's not about me. It's what came out of their mouth that came into me. And I have a choice to take it and say, that's not really true. I know myself better than that. Or I can say, you know what, there's a piece of truth in there. I'm going to change something. I'm going to be differently. I'll maybe say something different the next time. So I had 5 minutes to wallow, went back to the wedding. I was perfectly fine.
I love that.
So
That was
I
your
like
third
that.
tip. Learn from your experiences to predict, to make better future results. You already did your number 4, forgive yourself and move on. Number 5, teach people how to treat you as you treat others, how to be empowered.
I love this.
It kind of reminds me,
yes.
of like the Marianne Williamson poem where she says, as you allow your light to shine, you unconsciously allow others to shine as well.
Imagine how your example, can you imagine somebody walked up to me and said that I inspired them with this book, and you just said it was great and you loved it. Here's the funny thing. If I would have looked at myself 20 years ago, I would never in a million years have thought that my example of what I am doing and how I am being in the world would have ever inspired anybody at all, except maybe somebody who loved to wallow also. Maybe that was the inspiration. But now people actually tell me that. I get, emails or things like that from people, and they tell me that I made a difference in their life. And that, by example, about what you do, how you hold yourself, how do you want to be out in the world? And if you're going to have an example of who you are, let's say you're looking for a new career or you're looking for an advancement in your career. If you are not actually out there doing what you think that you want, like if you want to wear cargo pants and a t-shirt to work, but you're looking for a management position,
Forget about it.
Self-sabotage.
no way. Self-sabotage, it's beautiful, and it's done very often. But we can change that by how we want to set the example for what we want.
And I feel as parents that we have a responsibility to let our light shine so that others, their light shines also. And so I think that's so wonderful that for us in business, as you just gave that example, and for us in life and in our relationships. So thank you so much. I love it. The book, again, right there for you is Get Your Goddess On. Move on with your life, right? Own your power. Love your life.
Be authentic.
Great
you,
to
Kat.
see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.